The 642nd edition of the MMA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MMASGPN to score up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
Heidi ho, DeGenerinos. Welcome to episode 642 of the MMA Gambling Podcast and the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Disregard what you heard in other episodes. We're at 642 now. This one's, of course, dedicated to Noel and Liam. We're mad for it. Welcome back. And thank you for coming to the show. LFA is what we're going to talk about today. I'm Jeff Chalks Fox, one of your hosts. I guess it was kind of up in the air when we went off air last episode, but today is all about LFA, as you probably have seen when you clicked on YouTube, hopefully, to watch this and subscribe, or if you listen to us. Tomorrow will be Contender Series, which I'm sure a lot of you will be excited about. You're getting your Contender Series fix a few days earlier than normal, which is good news. A lot of people watched and listened to our last Contender Series episode. I'm sure it's no coincidence that that's the one I came back for, so probably it's correlated. So we'll be covering it a little earlier for next week. The chalkiest Contender Series of date. I think the C stands for chalky.
Not the last fight.
No, the last fight. It should have been the last two fights. We'll probably talk more about that tomorrow. But yeah, Gumby almost went 5-0. In my eyes, a lot of people's eyes, he probably should have gone 5-0 last night at Contender Series. But nonetheless, 4-1 we'll have to do with the dog. And today we're on to LFA. Hello, Mr. Gumby Reeland.
So you're saying we're not going to recap?
If you want to, I was thinking we're doing Contender Series tomorrow. But if you want to pump up your chest today and tomorrow, that's quite all right. Go right ahead.
Well, I was going to do that, but I was going to talk about how I was 7-0 on LFA last week.
Oh, well, there you go. That's right.
5-0 with a pair of dogs on our actual plays. And then, even though we don't, when we're counting our winnings here, we don't count the lightning round picks, but it was 2-0 in the lightning round picks as well. So 7-0 overall last week on LFA 190. So obviously we got to give you some LFA 191 picks.
And you didn't even want him to cover it. Some of you people.
They really wanted PFL. And look, everybody who commented, hey, where's the PFL breakdown? How come we're not doing PFL this week? Where's the PFL? I said, look, just take all chalk and maybe sprinkle on Tyler Diamond if you feel like you need a dog. And he looked terrible. So it was, and then all the chalk hit, and he looked terrible.
Yeah. If I was around, I probably would have forced him to do it, to do a PFL, and then you would have missed out on your 7-0 week. So
including a 180 underdog and a 140 underdog.
So everything turned out just great. People, all right. Gumby knows what he's doing. What do you know about this LFA 191, Gumby? This is a Brazilian event, right?
Yes, and it is. It's got a couple of fighters you've probably heard of before. It has got a fighter who I'm wildly indebted to for his massive win earlier this year. It's got a prospect who I was super high on and then not high on at all, and now I'm kind of maybe high on, which is a fun little prospect roller coaster. So lots of interesting stuff to break down and some weird style matchups.
And we have Danger versus Panic in a fight, which is going to be fun too. I like when the nicknames match up for matchup. So we have all that in store after I tell you that everything, speaking of store, I didn't even mean to do that. Everything in our merch store, the other medium store, is on sale right now. 10% off with promo code football, because that's what everyone is thinking of this time of year. I guess all times of year. So sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. Type in football when you check out, 10% off. Boom. Make sure you get some of our cool merch, whether it's from our show and maybe SGP hat like I'm wearing right now. Check it all out. Plus, college football is a thing, and it's begun again. Apparently last week was week 0. This week is week 1 because I guess they started 0 in college in the States. So make sure you tune in to the Sports Gambling Podcast and the College Football Experience for their week 1 picks. All right. We've got week now picks for PFL 190, not PFL, excuse me, LFA 191. See, I'm trying to sneak PFL into. When is the next PFL?
I think next week. I think
okay,
it's either next week or 2 weeks from now. So we'll keep that on the radar.
And I will make Gumby do it regardless. Well, maybe it won't. Gumby, oh, you just wait to see what Gumby has voluntarily decided to do on Tuesday's episode. Tuesday's episode. You just wait.
Yeah.
You won't believe what your eyes and ears will reveal. All right, LFA 191 is this Friday. We were hoping it was Saturday because we already have a Friday event, but it is instead Friday. So split screen is fine. United Fight League and LFA. This is going down in Cajamar, Sao Paulo, Brazil. It's LFA 191. Prado versus Lopes. 9 p.m. Eastern is the start time on UFC Fight Pass. Does Fight Pass have the prelims too? Usually, I can't remember. Or is
sometimes they go deeper than a 5-fight main card. Sometimes it's like a 6 or a 7-fight main card. So you might get a few more than we do today. Then they usually do 3 or so prelims on YouTube, which does leave like 4 or 5 dark prelims, which is kind of a bummer.
Ooh, olden days.
Yeah, for those of you who don't remember the days of the dark prelims of UFC or watching 2 of them on Facebook while wishing you could have 5 of them. Yeah. So they're still in the dark days here.
Yeah, a lot of the people in our Discord would not remember those dates, it seems, when you guys were all talking about your ages. So
because they were 6 at the time.
Yeah, and I think it's I don't think it's today's card we're doing, but yeah, there's some cards coming up where people were born in 2003. I'm like, how is that even possible? and they're adults, but yeah, that's the way life goes, apparently. All right, let's get started with a couple of Brazilian names, not surprisingly. A Da Costa and a Pereira. As Brazilian as it gets. Once I find the right page here, we got a couple of Pereiras going down on Friday, excuse me. Damn Tapology, eh? Tapology capping is biting me in the ass. And here it is. It is a bantamweight fight. João Lucas Da Costa from Brazil. Rafael Pereira from Brazil. 3 5-minute rounds if they need it. 135 pounds. We're going to start off with, the odds, right? You've seen the odds?
Yeah, I don't need to guess them.
Start off with Mini Man Pereira. What a great nickname. 11-4. 3 knockouts, 4 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. 1-0 in LFA. He's won 6 straight, including his last fight via submission. Used to fight down at flyweight, up at featherweight. 4-2 in pro Muay Thai, plus 110. So we're starting off with a fairly close one on the boards. Da Costa's got a very original nickname for a Brazilian Gumby, Mureta.
Another sledgehammer.
Another sledgehammer. He's 8-2 with 1 no. We got Rondas on the female side always, and now it's sledgehammer. So, all right, 8-2 with 1 no contest with 6 knockouts on his resume here. He's been submitted 1 time himself. 1 no in LFA. 1-2 with 1 no contest over his last 4. He did win his last fight though. He also has multiple regional championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. I haven't said that for a while. 10% off. Remember, football is your code, and you can get cool shirts that we have there. Our show specific shirts. He used to fight at featherweight and lightweight. 6 years younger than Pereira. -140.
I'm going to go dog right at the gate here for 2 reasons. Number 1, I really do like Rafael Pereira. Number 2, I'm forever indebted to him for a win he had at, I believe it was LFA 175 earlier this year. He was my big swing of a dog play at like plus 350 on the beginning of the main card. And he won in 51 seconds with no sweat whatsoever. And I'm going to be honest, I was kind of shocked after the performance he had against Fernando Laureano, that he would wind up a dog again here. And I know Da Costa kind of has some things going for him. Like, he's one of those strikers who strikes with, like, his hands are not down, but they're wide. I mean, I guess they're down a little bit, but they're like really wide. And it makes him kind of easy for him to snipe people because they're in basically in a loaded position at all times. He's got kind of fun kicks that he uses lots of times by like jumping in, like jump inside kicks and stuff like that. But the problem for me is, first of all, I don't think he's going to be better than Pereira on the feet. Like, I think Pereira is sharper, more explosive, definitely straighter to the target, which I think is going to be bigger for him here. And then the other problem for Da Costa is he has just been really easy to take down in his career. And if you watch Pereira's last fight, that 51-second one that I said was no sweat, he walked in, walked his opponent down, hit him, knocked him down, assumed he was out, walked away from it. The ref made him keep fighting, and then he jumped on his back and submitted him. So, like, he also has submission skills. Granted, that guy was, like, woozy as hell, but he also has, like, kind of sneaky submission skills where he's got good jiu-jitsu positioning, and I haven't necessarily seen enough of his wrestling, but as bad as Da Costa's takedown defense has been, I think that's also an area that Pereira could take advantage of. So I'm going to say I like Pereira here, both because I think the wide hands of the Costa, the fact that he doesn't attack straight to his target is going to make him hittable with Pereira. And also because I think the grappling advantage probably leads Pereira here too. So I would say get this number at plus while you can. I imagine the more and more people are going to look back into his recent fights, the more and more they're going to want to bet on this guy. So yeah, Rafael Pereira is the pick for me. Get in while the dog is good.
Is the reason you're picking him because his nickname is Mini Man, and that makes you think he's a short king when really he's not?
He's not a short king. He's small. He's a small guy though.
Yeah. So that Gumby can't quit the small guys. The Mini Man, the short kings, 5'6". So yeah, he's not super tiny for his
not for bantamweight
weight class. No. All right. Should we get another fight in? Let's get another one in, shall we? A female fight. Moving up the fight card, a strawweight fight. Maria Luiza de Abreu. Of course, she's got 4 names. I mean, she's from Brazil. Versus Gabriela Fujimoto from Brazil as well. Brazilian first name, Japanese last name. Let's break it down, shall we? De Abreu, 5-1 with 4 submissions. She's been submitted once, so pretty much she owes us rounds. This is her LFA debut. She won her last fight via submission. Multi-regional championships on her.
Mantle.
Correct. The shirt, sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. Get sticky with it. 10% off with football as the code. It should be get sticky, but football is the code instead. Used to fight at flyweight and plus 215. Fujimoto, a really good nickname. Gabby, very good. Shortened Gabriela, very good nickname. 5-0, 1 knockout, 1 submission. All those fights are taking place in LFA. 4 years younger than De Abreu, minus 275. So I think this is the closest odds she's been in any of her fights. She's been huge favorites, and Fujimoto's been a huge favorite in all her fights leading up to this.
Yeah, I sort of teased it at the top. This is one of those prospects that I've been back and forth on. There's been moments where she's looked like an absolute world beater, and I'm like, why is she not in the UFC, even at like 3-0, or why is she not in Contender Series? And then there's been moments where I'm like, why is she on the bottom grappling with this woman right now? And I'm like, she is a really good wrestler. And in her last fight, which really bothered me about Fujimoto, is so she throws punches and bunches. She does a good job pressuring her opponent and not just throwing one and getting out of range when she does. But when her opponent has returned and done sort of the same thing to her, she's looked kind of without an answer for it. Not necessarily getting hit, but definitely shelling up and not really circling away. She just basically hangs out there until her last opponent gave up throwing. And man, is that a bad sign for like future fights, right? Now, the good thing about that, if there is such a thing as a good thing about somebody who does such things, is she's up against an opponent who I don't think will do that. Abreu has looked a little bit tentative on her feet. She is a really exciting grappler. Like when she has top positions, I really like her positioning. I really like how it's, I want to say risky, like how positionally risky she is getting after submissions. She's somebody who likes the arm bar from top mount, which is, fairly low percentage unless you're a really high level jiu-jitsu practitioner, but she seems to like going for it, and she's hit it a couple of times. But the problem is I just don't see her getting wrestling positions against Fujimoto. Fujimoto, very strong for a women's flyweight or a strawweight. Again, she likes to come forward and throw punches and bunches, which I think is going to back Abreu up, which means Abreu's most likely going to spend the bulk of this fight either working off of her back or working off of her back foot. So even though Fujimoto kind of like left some questions on the feet last time, I don't think Abreu can push those same questions upon her. And with that being said, I'm really loving the discount price here on Fujimoto. It's definitely a parlay piece for me here at negative 275.
All right, Fujimoto. What is her background? Why is she so hyped? Or is she just a natural at this thing called MMA?
I mean, I think it's that she has like really impressive physical strength. Mm-hmm. And what did you say for her finish numbers? Does she have 5 finish numbers?
Let me see. No, one knockout, 1 submission. So she hasn't finished much.
Yeah, I would guess maybe then the hype comes from, being a very physically strong strawweight. I mean, she looks the part as you said, she's been negative 500, negative 750, negative 1,000. So like when you have those kinds of numbers next to your name, it's a name that like people circle for future fights. Now, again, she fought a woman with not a great record last time out and kind of got overwhelmed in some of the striking. It does seem like LFA is kind of giving her a chance to get back and let some of the hype come back here, though.
Yep. Makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't sure if she was like a jiu-jitsu ace or a Muay Thai champion.
No, not really. I
No.
think maybe she does have a wrestling background, if I probably had to guess anything, because
Yeah.
I mean, like, she's got sort of the build of a wrestler, and it does seem like that is the thing that she perhaps does best.
Yeah. What we do best is make winning picks and tell you about Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy Pick'em gives you a chance to win 1,000 times your entry. How good is that? Or I should say either or. I think you probably do both. You could also play fantasy football the right way with fantasy. With Underdog Fantasy, they have Best Ball Mania and it's live right now. $15 million in prizes. That's even enough money to get Gumby interested in it. You can also use specials and boosts on all flex entries. And this is a part of the ad read where Gumby gives you a Atlanta Braves pick more than likely.
No, I can't give you an Atlanta Brave pick because they haven't announced their starter for Thursday, and this is probably not going to get in your ears before Wednesday, so I won't push my luck there and just like guess who's starting. But I am going to take the higher than on Hayden Birdsong's strikeouts. He's a guy who I've kept an eye on lately. You're probably going to see a fairly low number next to his name because obviously the Thursday numbers aren't out yet because he's facing the Brewers and they do put the bat on the ball pretty well. But he's had 5 in the last 3 games, and it does seem like he's pretty consistent with sitting people down. So give me some Hayden Birdsong action here. All
right. And he's got a great name to boot. So sign up with our code MMA SGPN to claim your special pick and first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Helps us out greatly if you can sign up and use our code. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code MMA SGPN. Makes us look even better than we already do to the bosses. All right. We want to be the favorite children of the bosses. What are we moving on to now? It's more Brazilian action. Is this all Brazilian fight card? I think.
Yes.
Wow. Brazil versus Brazil. All right. This one is back to the men's side, and we're going to bantamweight. Michel, Lima, Luan, Matheus. Obviously, both from Brazil, as I said. 3 5-minute rounds if they need it. We'll tell you about Lima first. Panico, which means panic. This is the panic versus danger fight. So panic is 18-6, 6 knockouts, 2 submissions. Been submitted twice. 0-1 in LFA. He's won 1 of his last 4 and 2 of his last 6. Did lose his last fight. Used to fight at featherweight. Used to be the champion of LFA. Is that correct? No. A regional champion, excuse me. 2012 was his pro MMA debut. 0-1 in pro boxing, plus 115. Danger, Matheus, 14-7-1, 6 knockouts, 6 submissions. He's been submitted 5 times. This is his LFA debut as not as well. Lima's fought once. This is his debut. 4-1. Including winning over his last 5, including winning his last fight. Multiple championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt or the hat or anything else you want at sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. Football is your code, 10% off. Used to fight at flyweight, 2 years younger than Lima, an inch taller, minus 145. Who do you got? Danger or you got panic?
This is maybe one of the best values on the whole card. I'm going to go with Luan Matheus. I was lucky enough to find the footage on him fighting. The Discord will approve of this. The triple golden whale champion, Jan Matsumoto.
Yep.
Luan Matheus, his only loss? His only loss. Does he have 1 loss?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. His only loss is Jan Matsumoto. And if you haven't gotten a chance to watch that fight and you are not taking my word for it here that Matheus is a huge value, go back and watch him fight Jan Matsumoto. Because the craziest part of that fight is he's got the upper hand for the better part of the first round. He stuffs almost all of Matsumoto's takedowns. He pieces him up on the feet. He does eat quite a few leg kicks in that fight. And at the end of the day, he winds up tiring to the point where Jan Matsumoto kind of takes over. But like the amount of success that he has in the defensive wrestling portion, and the amount of offensive striking he gets going by, he's a rangy guy. He's long. He digs to the body. The ability to do all of that is awesome. Now, I do think he tired himself a little bit out by throwing too many like jumping knees and stuff like that. I think basically hoping he would catch the wrestler coming in. But I'm of the belief that if he did not throw so many jumping knees, there's a good chance he could have stolen a decision in that fight against Matsumoto. And on the regional scene, you're not going to find a guy at -145 who would have beat Jan Matsumoto all that much. On top of that, I think it's a great style matchup for him. If you watch Lima, one of the things he does is he backs up too much. And if you're looking, and if you're looking for trends, a guy with good range versus a guy who backs up too much, that's a bad sign for the guy who backs up too much. And then in addition to that, Lima is a guy who at first I was like, does he just have a weird hesitation in his striking that he's got in there to maybe mess with people's timing or something like that? Because it looked like he'd start to throw a combination and just pause midway through a punch. And after a while of watching him in a couple of different fights, I realized I think it's due to him biting on feint so hard that he's frozen. And so like we have a guy who's afraid of basically getting into a firefight with people, backing up in exchanges, freezing due to feints, and a guy who pieced up Yan Matsumoto at the feet, and somehow we're getting negative 145 on Matheus. So I think this is one of those ones that you got to get on early too, because I don't think this will stay at negative 145. And I love Matheus at this price.
I should clarify when we said his only loss in his last 5.
His last 5.
Yeah.
It was a decision, correct?
I believe so. Yeah. He lost 6 other fights earlier on in his career. But,
right. He's got a Purdue.
He got guillotine choked in the second round. 15 seconds left.
That's right. So when he tired, he did start to shoot takedowns himself, which was kind of silly because he was winning on the feet apart from a couple of leg kicks. So you're right about that. He did shoot a bunch of takedowns there and wound up getting guillotine choked. That was kind of a bummer.
I'm not right. Typology is right. Typology is always right.
Well, you're right. You're right to correct me.
I am. I'm right to always do my capping through Typology. All right, co-main event. Lucas Fernando versus Pedro Oliveira. 3 5-minute rounds, 185 pounds. We'll tell you about Oliveira first. 8-2-1, 4 knockouts, 1 submission. He's never been finished himself. 0-1 in LFA. He's won 2 straight and 3 of his last 5. Both of his past 2 wins have come via knockout or TKO. Used to be a regional champion. 2 years younger than Fernando, plus 130. Fernando, 10-3, 5 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's never been finished in a fight himself. These guys owe us a finish. 5-1 in LFA. Used to be the champion of this here promotion. However, he's only won 1 of his last 3 fights, but he did win his last fight. Got off a 2-fight losing skid. 0-1 in Contender Series. Who do you lose to, Gumby?
He's a big striker type, right? Who he tried to out wrestle and it didn't work. Cesar Almeida.
Are you sure about that?
12% sure.
You are? Oh no, you're 100% sure because it is correct. Nice. Used to fight at welterweight. This Fernando gentleman, 3 inches of reach over Oliveira, minus 160.
Yeah, and in that fight with Cesar Almeida, I'm really glad I remembered that it was Cesar Almeida because that fight with Cesar Almeida saw him control Almeida with quite a bit of takedowns. If I'm remembering correctly, I think he got 3 or 4 takedowns in that fight with Cesar Almeida. And while that might seem silly and kind of like not important to this fight in general, it kind of is important because Cesar Almeida stuffed takedowns of, is it Dylan Budka when he jacked up the side of his head? And like the Mindless Hulk, you can say what you want. Yeah, you can say what you want about him, but that dude has got some really good wrestling. So, for him to fail against it and Fernando to succeed, it does mean that Fernando has decent wrestling. And I think that matters here for 2 reasons. Number one, these are both big, tall middleweights. These are very rangy guys in this weight class. I think Fernando uses it much better. I think he's better at range than Oliveira is in the first place. And then the way that Oliveira kind of gets to his opponent's best is he likes to use his height in clinches. And he does that by basically like striking himself into range. And it sometimes looks a little sloppy. He like sloppily strikes himself into range. And then once he's in range, you see some of the knees to the body, you see some close elbows and stuff like that. I think Fernando both can stay away from that if he wants to, but also if you wind up in the clinch with him, as I just said, he took down Cesar Almeida, who's got a really low center of gravity and has stuffed takedowns before and punishes you when you try to do it. And granted, he didn't win that fight, but he showed that level of skill. And I think here against Oliveira, I think he can finish these takedowns too, because Oliveira maybe he's not giving up takedowns for the guys he's fighting, but I watched one of his more recent fights. He was fighting, let's put it this way, a guy whose frame should not carry the weight that puts him at middleweight. You can
very polite.
Yeah, I was trying to dance around it a little bit, but that guy got in on takedowns too. Now he didn't finish him, but he got in on the legs enough. I think Fernando, if he wants to, will get in and finish him. So I see Fernando having a little bit of an advantage on the feet and a lot of bit of an advantage on the ground. I don't know that he takes it there, but it's enough for me to say, even if the striking's not going well, he has a backup plan. So Give me Fernando here. What did you say the number was?
Fernando was -160. You're getting some good value.
Oh, that's
today, aren't you?
Yeah, I kind of expected that to be a little higher too. So
that's the highest one you've got so far. So you're doing good. You're doing very good.
No, I got -275 on Fujimoto.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's true. But she deserves it apparently. So
yeah.
All right. Before we go to the main event, Rhythm. I'm going to tell you about Rhythm. Have you ever wanted to create your own sports betting model for football? Do you even know what a sports betting model is? SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on moneyline spreads, totals, and props. Build your model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me. And Rhythm gives you predictions for every game and player prop. And also has a myriad of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. The Rhythm college football model loved Delaware State and the points this weekend. Build your own model and get ready for week 1 college football because they already started week 0. Now it's week 1. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpockets.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpockets.com/RITHMM. All right, explain to me the week 0 things. We've danced around it long enough.
So basically, week 1, and this is a very rudimentary understanding from an MMA analyst, but my understanding is that week 1 was always like the beginning of the college football schedule. It was always like the first weekend of September. And then a lot of teams started basically scheduling like a cupcake game before the real games. And they didn't want to start calling that week 1 because there was enough teams not playing during that week. So they started calling that week 0 so that week 1 could stay stagnant.
All right. Makes sense. And it all brings us back to Rhythm.
And please put it in the comments if I'm way off base.
Yeah, please. Please. Definitely tell Gumby he's
on a Brazilian MMA video.
Exactly. All right, main event time, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of Brazilians, we got a couple more. Featherweights. Wellington Prado versus Keweny Lopes. 3 5-minute rounds if they need it. Excuse me. Let's get going with Lopes first. Leao. Leao, which means Leao.
Big Leo
lion. So yes, I guess. Yeah. Leo the lion. And Google said lion, but yes, I thought it would be Big Leo. Yeah, you're right. I guess it all is the same. 10-1-1. This big lion is 7 knockouts, 1 submission. He's been submitted once, so he pretty much owes his rounds. Damn it. Won his last 5 via knockout. Multiple wager championships on his
mantle.
Correct. Get the shirt. sportsgamblingpockets.com/store. Remember our code football. Get you 10% off. And you can look super cool like Gumby and myself. Used to fight at a lightweight, plus 180. Predador is Prado. He's 14-3, 4 knockouts, 8 submissions. He's been knocked out once, submitted once. So this guy owes his rounds as well. 1-1 in LFA. He's won 4 of his last 5, including his last fight via TKO. 0-1 is pro grappler, 4 years younger than Lopes, an inch taller, -220.
So I'm going to go with Prado here. And I know this episode's been a little on the chalky side, but I keep finding value on favorites. I will tell you, while I said, I really like the value on Matheus, I really like the value on Fujimoto for like a parlay piece. I really don't like the value on Prado because, as I give you the style breakdown, perhaps my first sort of alarm bell for this price is I think Lopes is a better wrestler. And it's not often I'm picking a -220 guy who I think is a worse wrestler. Luckily for him, I think the big difference is, first of all, I think he's way faster on the feet, especially when it comes to kicks. Lopes is kind of telegraphs him. You can see him coming, isn't good on the range. Prado, much more power. He does it low and to the body, which I think is good. So I think he's got a big kicking and speed advantage on the feet. I also think his other advantage when it comes to grappling is his ability to scramble. If you watch him, even when he's like losing wrestling exchanges, he does a good job of removing his hips from the situation. So even if he hits the ground, he's ready to scramble back up, sometimes to take a top position himself. I've seen him take people's backs on their takedown attempts, which I think is like a really positive thing when it comes to his grappling. And Lopes is almost the opposite. Like, I really like his wrestling, but I think he's kind of like, I'm going to shoot this shot, and if it doesn't work, then I might just leave. Or, like, I'm not going to stick around this exchange. And so, like, he's not persistent in his wrestling. And I think that's maybe a problem against Prado. With that being said, at -220, I really don't want to find myself in a situation here where Keweny Lopes winds up shooting a takedown and just laying on Prado for like 8 of the 15 minutes here until he wins the decision. So as a result, I'm going to say my official pick, the gun in my head. I want Prado here, but I don't want him at that price. I'm too alarmed by what could potentially happen here with Lopes that this one is wait for Prado to come down or just pass altogether.
He's alarmed. Panico. It goes right back to panic. All right, let's recap, shall we? And then we'll see if we can get some lightning round play. Prado, Fernando, Matheus, Fujimoto, Pereira. So all favorites except for Pereira, but they're all small favorites except for Fujimoto and I guess Prado. I'm trying to make Gumby sound good, but hey,
I did get one dog in there.
He gets you winners regardless. Lightning round, crash, bang, boom, zap, pow. We got 10 fights to choose from here.
Yeah, and you know, if you followed these before, I'm usually looking for a dog in the lightning round, and instead I just found more value that I like on favorites here. Yeah. Two of them that I like John Bryan. So in his fight, it's Jhon Bryan. In his fight, it's a pair of 3-0 fighters going at it. He's 18 years old, and his opponent is 19 years old. Wow. The reason I like the 18-year-old in this 3-0 fight over the 19-year-old is I think he's shown a lot more in his 3 fights. He's shown an ability to like crack on the feet. He's shown a little bit of wrestling. He's shown a really sharp ground game with like really sharp submission skills. Whereas his opponent, it feels like he's just kind of out there dropping bombs and it's worked so far. But like, I would way rather have the guy who's sort of more battle tested and seen more things and done, you know, those things more well. You know, like I don't necessarily know that his opponent can grapple all that well. So I'll take the guy who's more traveled here, and I'm seeing his betting line right now is -160. So I like that value too. Another guy I'm going to go with, Denison Rodriguez. He is a guy with very big hands, and he's only got 2 losses in his career, which I expected him with an 8-2 record. I believe his opponent is only like 7-4 or something like that. It's like much worse looking. And really his 8-2 record could be 9-1. He actually lost one of those fights with an illegal kick. So like if you know, point out the fact that he was probably winning that fight, we're talking about a guy who's 9-1 against a guy who's far worse. He's got big hands, the ability to put people away. And he's only betting off at -155. So between Denison Rodriguez and John Bryan, you've got a pair of favorites here who are barely favorites. And I think give you really good value.
Who's the chalky one around here now, eh? Hey, these things happen in MMA sometimes, right?
They do.
All right. That's all you need to know for LFA. You're all set to go on about your life. We'll be back very shortly, though, tomorrow, as a matter of fact. People have been asking for it already. We can't get you Contender Series early enough, so we'll get you the episode tomorrow. Tell you how great Gumby's doing on this year. Hey, it may be chalky, but at least Gumby is picking the chalk. All right. In the meantime, we can discuss all of this and whatever else you'd like to discuss in our Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. Thank you, everyone who's continued to subscribe. The numbers keep going up. And thank you, everyone who actually watches and interacts with us in there. Of course, we would be the MMA Gambling Podcast on YouTube. Twitter would be SGPN MMA. He's at Gumby Vreeland. I'm at Jeff Fox Writer. I am that on Instagram as well. My Substack up and running. Check out my MMA writing. A lot of data driven type writing there. And of course, my weekly pick'em contest for the UFC. That's at moneymma.substack.com. Gumby has the Top Turtle MMA podcast, a very good podcast that I'm not on, but regardless, I still listen to it every week. Who is on it this week?
So we talked with Malcolm Wellmaker, but that was right before he won his contract on Contender Series last night. So
may I say he's a very, I like that guy. Very likable.
Yeah, really super likable dude. And then obviously that knockout makes him even more likable.
And then his interview with Laura too we'll talk about tomorrow. But yeah, he's really good on the mic, that guy.
Yeah. And then the aforementioned Mindless Hulk, Dylan Budka, is on towards the end of the episode. So make sure you check that one out as well.
Yep, you can hear about how he got that nickname. So yeah, check it all out. And of course, we're at sportsgamblingpodcast.com, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/store. So you can get your swag. Remember, football is your code to discounts, and sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Patreon to get bonus content and help us. We'll be back tomorrow. Panico, Jeff Fox, Murata, Gumby Vreeland. We'll talk to you then.